The most intelligent people don't necessarily solve everything better. They analyze everything more and live life less. Leon sits in a conference room. There's a lot of noise. Everyone is talking. Budget figures and year-end targets. The word synergy, constantly repeated by everyone, rings in his ears. Leon, on the other hand, sits at the end of the table with his hands folded, looking out the window. He follows the conversation, understands everything, but doesn't participate. He is only there physically. As the meeting ends, the manager asks Leon for his opinion too. He says it all looks fine. This is actually a lie. It would take at least 3 hours to explain, and no one wants to spend that kind of time on it. They say intelligence is a gift. That's how it's taught in schools, and it's reinforced by the people around us. You understand faster, you evaluate every angle better, you solve problems better. All of this is true, but seeing everything is not always good. Seeing something in all its detail does not make it more beautiful or bearable. Leon's problem in the meeting is this. You can see why the targets being discussed are unattainable. He sees the inconsistency in the numbers. He also sees that the manager is holding this meeting solely to be able to present something to upper management. What can someone who sees all this say? Does he say it's a great plan, or does he try to explain everything? And if he tries to explain, what happens? No one listens. Worse, maybe they do listen and think he is a difficult person. They may even see him as an obstacle to be overcome or eliminated. So the best option is to stay silent. One of the least talked about aspects of high intelligence is this rapid calculation. You enter a situation. You instinctively see the possibilities, the likely outcomes, and how your own reaction will be perceived. All of this happens within seconds. Before the person across from you even finishes their sentence, you have already thought 3 steps ahead. Sometimes it helps, but most of the time it's exhausting. Over time, this habit takes on an even stranger form. It goes beyond direct experience. You analyze things before actually experiencing them. Instead of feeling sad, you evaluate why you are sad. Instead of feeling joy, you calculate how long that joy will last. Whereas friends had been telling her for years how smart she was. Even though she knew they meant it as a compliment, she still felt a bitterness inside. She thought they saw her as different, and being different usually meant being set apart from others. One night, she had an argument with one of her friends. Her friend was crying, and she was analyzing the situation. She was actually offering explanations as to why her friend was feeling that way. And she was right too. But her friend cried even more, and in the end accused her of never behaving like a human being. Vera left her behind and walked out of the room. Everything she said was right. Every analysis was correct. Yet it was clear that she had done something very wrong. There is a detail hidden here. Intelligence is also used to cope with emotions. You feel something, pain, anxiety, grief, and you immediately begin to examine that feeling. You search for its source, find it, and place it within a framework. Most of the time, it doesn't help at all. There is a vast difference between understanding a feeling and living it. Naming the pain does not relieve the pain. For intelligent people, this analysis becomes a habit. Then it turns into a reflex. And eventually, It becomes armor. Just an emotion is about to rise fully, analyzes blocks it. It extinguishes it before it rises, as if it could be kept under control that way. In reality, it's only postponed. Imagine a child, 8 years old and the smartest in the class. Teachers adore him. He always comes first in exams. But he wanders alone at recess. Why? Because he is not interested in what the other children talk about. Or even when he tries to engage, at some point he pauses. The conversation starts to feel too shallow. The child feels this. His friends see him as different, and over time he ends up outside the group. This pattern doesn't change as you grow up. It only becomes more complex. You learn to speak better, to fit in. But that feeling of loneliness doesn't go away. If you see the world differently from most people, finding common ground with them becomes harder. You don't find something funny because you don't accept the assumption the joke is built on. You are not saddened by something because you don't understand why it matters. Or you do understand, but you can't share it. A cycle begins here. You can't connect with people, you withdraw, you start thinking more. The more you see, the more isolated you become. You can't connect with people. Once you enter this cycle, it's very hard to get out, because every step justifies the previous one. Imagine a scene. Two people are sitting at a bar. One is telling the other he was fired, doesn't know what to do, and is scared. The other is listening, but at the same time questioning things in his mind. Why did he lose his job? The reason might be this. The next step should be that. After that he should do this. And so it goes. He finishes the calculation and finally gives his advice. The person across from him pauses for a moment and asks, "Do you understand me?" He does understand, of course. The man doesn't want a solution. He just wants someone to be there with him. What does being there mean? Where will you do just listen? Isn't that very unproductive? For some people, being present is a performance. As they realize this, they analyze even more. They have an answer for everything. But this doesn't make them better. The relationship between melancholy and intelligence goes back to Aristotle. People who think deeply are generally depicted as sorrowful but noble, lonely but voluble. But the reality is not as beautiful as it is depicted. The reality is that you can't sleep at night. Something is constantly turning in your head. You are reanalyzing a conversation. Why did they say that? Why did they actually mean? Should I have answered differently? It's exhausting. You may be able to see many things, but still cannot change many of them. You see why a relationship isn't working, but you continue anyway. You know why a friendship is one-sided, and yet you still call and check in. You know a habit is harming you, and you continue it anyway. The contradiction tends to disturb highly intelligent people, because if they understand something, they also think they should be able to change it. Yet that's not how it goes. You keep doing the same things. This doesn't make you stupid, but it makes you feel that way, and you analyze even that feeling. Imagine someone in their 30s, intelligent, successful, with a good job. Looking at social media, everything seems to be in its place. But many evenings, a feeling of emptiness settles in. Not quite sadness, more like numbness. If he were to tell someone, how would he even explain it? He already knows how they would respond, and those responses wouldn't satisfy him either. so he shares it with no one and keeps it inside. Because words aren't enough to describe it, and what he would hear back wouldn't be enough either. There is also the matter of social approval. This is another part of the cycle. Intelligent people generally earn approval through their intelligence from childhood onward. You get good grades, you answer the hard question, you impress the adults, and after all of it, you are approved. This turns into a reward system. You think you get approved and you think more. But in adult life, things change. Because being the smartest no longer solves everything. In fact, sometimes it works in the exact opposite direction. People don't always reward intelligence. Sometimes it's seen as a threat, or simply something people don't want to deal with. And that child, accustomed to being approved, no longer knows what to do. He analyzes more, tries to be right. Nobody approves of these things. There is a serious difference between feeling emotions and analyzing them. Using intelligence as a shield is most often not a conscious decision. No one sets out to escape their emotions by analyzing them. But the more you practice it, the more it becomes a habit. After a while, understanding feels more natural than feeling. Finding the reason for crying rather than crying, solving the logic of fear rather than being afraid. Maybe by doing these things you are protecting yourself from a breakdown. You keep going, you continue living your life, but you are also losing your feelings step by step. There is also the matter of identity. Intelligent people generally identify themselves with their intelligence. Intelligence goes beyond being a trait and becomes an identity. This becomes dangerous, because once intelligence becomes your identity, mistakes start to feel like threats. Something you don't understand becomes a threat, and someone who can think faster than you does too. So you analyze more, prepare more, and take fewer risks. You are standing in one place actually. You appear to be moving, but you are actually standing still. In the meeting, you become not the one who speaks the most, but the one who is most prepared. Not the one who decides fastest, but the one who analyzes the longest. You always become the person who thinks one more step before taking action. Taking a step becomes progressively harder, because there is always one more step to think through. The environment also plays a big role in this. If the place you were born in constantly rewarded intellect and framed emotion as weakness, this pattern settles in. Instead of grieving, you think. Instead of crying, you solve. Instead of feeling, you understand. These are usually taught implicitly, most of the time simply shown. You never see a father who cries, or a mother who is weak. Emotional conversations are very rare. We are always taught to stay strong. From childhood, we learn that emotions are dangerous and analysis is safe. As we grow up, emotions become identified with problems. And problems have solutions. But reality isn't like this. These are merely our assumptions. The loneliness that comes with high intelligence is actually more than the cliché of "no one understands me." This cliché carries a little pride within it. No one understands me because I think very deeply and I'm capable of it. Yet the reality is more ordinary. Analysis is a wall, and crossing it is not easy. Sometimes even replying to a simple "Are you okay?" message becomes complicated. How honest should one be in answering this question? How much time is needed for the right answer? Even if you set that time aside, will the other person truly listen or care? And will any of this change anything? All these thoughts keep him from even typing "I'm fine." He will wait until morning and most likely type "I'm fine." Life will go on in its ordinary flow. The problem is not intelligence. The problem is trying to understand everything and ending up unable to stay in anything.